Test here. All right, we got our screen. We got our attendees. That's our audio. All right, so folks are monitoring. We're about 5 minutes from our start time here. We will have an hour-long webinar looking at data reporting, ASEP data reporting for the 2018-19 academic year, finishing out that reporting, providing support for y'all. As I said, we'll get started in about 4-ish minutes. All right, Linda, thanks for chiming in from Region 1. If you do have questions, you'll need to go ahead and type in those questions. Given just the number of folks that we have attending today and the amount of content that we have, we will be taking questions typed rather than opening up for spoken questions. It's our goal to follow back up answering questions, posting an FAQ. We'll gather them up because, as you might imagine, frequently we get a lot of the same question. We'll gather them up. We'll post answers to them in the same place that we'll post this webinar. This webinar will be recorded. I feel like that's the #1 question that we get. Are y'all going to record the webinar? We are. And I believe, hold on, let me verify it's recording now, but I'm pretty sure it's recording now. Anyway, I'll stop talking. We got about 3 minutes until we get going. Hi everybody, we're online. It is 10 a.m. on Central Time. Always got to make sure to take care of that. Here on Tuesday, August the 6th. This is the data reporting training for 2018-19. So we have a jam-packed hours worth of content for y'all. Just a couple of pieces here at the front end. The first, as folks are already chiming in, if you've got questions today, since we have a whole lot of people and a whole lot of content, we're just going to encourage you to go ahead and type those questions. We will answer those and wrap back around for any that we aren't able to address in the moment. Also, this webinar will be posted on the TEA website. We are recording it. We'll post it once we are able to do a little editing and get the captions on it as necessary. Hopefully, we'll try to post it within a week of today, but can't promise that because there's a number of folks who aren't in this room that contribute to those timelines. The last thing, just want to let you know, this is about as loud as I got, and this is me maxed up my microphone. So if you need to turn up locally, I would encourage you to do so. There is also, you might hear some jackhammers or some big bulldozers or some very nice men shouting in the background. We do have construction outside, so if you hear some jackhammering in the background, please don't worry about it. It is the construction that's happening here in downtown Austin. So without further ado, our purpose today is about providing instruction necessary for the reporting tasks for EPPs related to ASEP. So we want to not only provide you with instruction, but also point you towards resources that are going to support your reporting. And we'll, of course, gather additional questions to help us build an FAQ, a questions document for answers. This is our agenda for the day. We already talked about our purpose. The first thing that we wanted to point out to you is one of those resources. We should do introductions. Let's do introductions. So with you today, we have, my name's Mark Olison. I'm the Director of Educator Data and Program Accountability.
Good morning, and this is Lori Ayers, and I'm a program specialist in educator preparation.
Hi, I'm Betty Flores. I work with Educator Data and Program Accountability. I'm a systems analyst here.
And those are your presenters today. And as you can see, we'll all be chiming in with different topics over the course of the agenda. So the first thing that we wanted to point out to y'all is the data reporting manual. So this is posted. This is what the front page looks like, and you see we posted some updates to this data reporting manual back on July 15th. So we've got the latest and greatest in there. If we do emerge out of this conversation or any further conversations where we need to post any additional or clarifying information, we will post any updated version of that manual if it is necessary. So in that data reporting manual, why should you download it and check it out as you're doing your reporting or finishing off your reporting this year? There's updated calendars, updated schedules. There's also new exception forms, which we'll be talking about today. There's also new information about features in ECOS, in the system where you report data, that'll go live on the 16th. We really hope on the 16th of August. And those include being able to update your test approval list, not just populate it, but to update it with a CSV upload, and also to update your finisher records list with an upload. Again, not just to create it the first time, but to update it. We'll have more information for that coming up further along in the webinar. So again, please start using the version that's posted now. To get that, you should go to the Program Provider Web Resources page. That's on the main TEA page, and we'll have some screenshots of that a little bit later. Also, when we push out these slides, these will be live links. As I said, you can always check back for updated versions if there's any corrections that we make based on things that are happening in the field. With that, I will hand it over to Lori to talk about the GPA spreadsheet.
All right, good morning again. This is Lori. And we're going to talk about the GPA spreadsheet here for a few minutes, which is a required part of the data submission. And just to remind you, and for those of you who are new, I saw some new names on the registration list. The GPA spreadsheet is a tool that we have used historically to collect required data that for now cannot be captured in ECOS or ASEP. So the GPA spreadsheet is a required part of your data submission. On the spreadsheet, you're going to complete this for all candidates admitted during the reporting year. So from 9/1/2018 through 8/31/2019, any candidate with an admission date in that date spread will be reported on this spreadsheet. This is any candidate in any of your programs. So there's a tab on the spreadsheet for teachers. There's one for principal candidates, one for school counselor candidates, et cetera, all through all of the different classes of certification that we offer. On the spreadsheet, which we're going to go over in more detail in a minute, you will need to report the requested data about each candidate. You're going to have the candidate's TEA ID number and admission date and some other specific information about that candidate. There is a data dictionary posted on the program provider resources page that you can use to help you populate that spreadsheet. After the webinar, you may need some additional assistance remembering what we talked about, and you can use that data dictionary for that reason. So here's a screenshot of the program provider page. If you use the Texas Educators tab, which is the highlighted red tab on the TEA website, you'll get the little drop down. If you scroll all the way to the bottom for the program provider resources link, that will pull up your go-to page for all these documents we're talking about today. And you can see that the GPA spreadsheet and the data dictionary are both posted there. Okay, let's take a look at the GPA spreadsheet. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because you can actually look all of this same information up in the data dictionary. But look at column C. Column C requires you to place the date admitted to the EPP for each candidate you admitted during the reporting year. This is the same date that was embedded in your offer of formal admission letter. And it's the same date that you're ultimately going to also have to have uploaded in test approval as the admission date. So this is the admission date. If you look at columns E and G, you must report the candidate's overall GPA and their admission GPA. You'll use column F to report the last 60 hours GPA if that was the GPA used to determine admission. So in other words, your admission GPA in column G is going to be the same number as either the GPA in column E or the GPA in column F, okay? Column H and I, you're going to report the number of semester credit hours that the candidate has on his or her transcript at admission in the certificate area sought. Then you're going to report the GPA of those semester credit hours. You're going to report this information whether or not the candidate came in with a past content exam. So even if there's a past content exam, there must be numbers reported in H and I. The basic skills in column J, you're going to report either an M if the candidate met the basic skills requirement through taking a TSI assessment or through remedial coursework, or you're going to report an E if the candidate met one of the exemptions in 19 TAC 4.54. I will tell you that if you're a postbac or an ACP, it's going to mostly be an E because a bachelor's degree conferred is one of the basic skills exemptions in 4.54. You don't want to report zeros in these areas. You just leave them blank if there's nothing to report. Okay, so in these areas, if there's nothing to report, leave them blank. If you look over to the right, starting with column Q, you're going to see a series of columns that say GRE, SAT, and ACT. If your institution collects these from candidates, you must report these. So if you're at a university-based program, if your university required SAT scores for admission to the university, then when you're reporting admissions information into the EPP for a candidate, you will report that candidate's SAT scores. If your university doesn't collect them, then you don't have to report them. If your EPP doesn't collect them, if you're an alt cert, then you don't have to report them. When you're filling out this spreadsheet, you're going to use only one line per candidate. So you're going to put all of that candidate's information on one line. So if a candidate's seeking core subjects EC6, then you're going to put that on the line. If the candidate's seeking core subjects EC6 with a bilingual supplemental, you're going to record all of that information on one line. One line per candidate. So at the bottom of the spreadsheet, it's not shown on the screen, but at the bottom of the spreadsheet, you'll see tabs, one for each certificate class. For efficiency and for a matter of record, if you don't have admits in one of these areas, please write on that page, there are no admissions in that area. And please be clear, if you do not offer that area, or if you don't have admits, because you just didn't have anybody admitted in that area during the year. Okay, but either way, identify to us on that tab why it's blank if you don't have any admits. Okay, so last year we recommended that you should populate your GPA spreadsheet throughout the year. So hopefully you've been doing that. And if you have been, you don't have as much to do now to complete it. But thinking about your GPA spreadsheet, the number of individuals across all tabs on your GPA spreadsheet is the total number you admitted during the reporting year. Principals, school counselors, teachers. That should equal the number of APR admitted on your annual performance report, and it should equal the number of individuals who were given first-time test approval in your EPP. So you're going to want to make sure you review these across all those areas to make sure your numbers agree. Okay. Mark, you want to talk about test approval?
Oh, I do.
All right. Turn it over to Mark.
Thank you. So now we're going to talk a little bit about test approval and admissions. So putting people into test approval is likely something that you've been doing all year long because you need to communicate to TEA that you've admitted a candidate within 7 days of their formal admission date. And so if you've been admitting candidates throughout the whole year, this is something that you've been doing throughout the whole year. But we're going to take a look at it today as well. I hope you'll bear with me. I've got a video that I'm going to live narrate, and I hope it turns out okay. We'll see how it works. So, oops, hold on. It didn't do it though. I've got to go there and then go play. So this is a screencast that shows some of the things for test approval. So currently, as I mentioned, EPPs communicate to TEA candidate admission by putting information into test approval. Now this can be done individually or in a bulk upload using a CSV. For the bulk upload, you'll need the social security number or the TEA ID. You'll need the name, birth date, email address, their formal admission date, and see, that's the bad part about this is that then I lost that. I got to go back here and see the last two pieces is that you're going to need the route and you're going to need the test code. So this is logged into ECOS, your green screen. You use your TEA login and password, and you'll see on the left-hand side I have the test approval menu opened up. There you'll select to add one person at a time. You're going to search, add, edit applicants. And let's go with an example where this person is newly admitted and doesn't have an educator record yet. So I have their social security number ready to go here. You can see I'll type that in, and since I need to create this person, I'm going to click on the box that says create with a given SSN. Here I'll enter the information directly off of their state issued ID. Information that matches that, their first and last name. You can see the red required fields, their birth date, and their email address. Once I've got all this information, I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And that will push me through to actually providing information about the test that I'm approving. So you see this now has the candidate's information, and I'm going to add a test approval. So I click on add test approval. Here, I'm going to put that formal admission date. I'm going to select the route. Here we've got them as an alt cert program. So select the proper route that goes along with that candidate. I'm going to select the test that goes along with what that candidate is pursuing. Here it'll be dance. And here you can select to be eligible. If you're just admitting and you don't want to yet give that test approval, you can leave them as eligible. Once you're ready to approve it for one attempt, you can click on approve for one attempt, and then you save. And then you can see that that test has been approved and shows up on the record. So if I want to do a whole bunch of these at one time, I click on upload new students test approvals. And here, this takes me to a screen that tells me all about the CSV that I need to make. So frequently folks make this in Microsoft Excel or some other piece of software that can export a CSV. So I've followed the instructions that were on that page. I've put the pieces of information all into the different cells. You can see I don't have a header row. That's very important. You can't have a header row. Once you've saved that file, you select it, open it, upload it, and what you can see that that record was processed and has now been put into the system. So it's a quick run through of what test approval looks like. Again, this is a process that folks have been doing hopefully all year long, since you do need to report them as they happen. One last piece to mention about test approval is that when you're reviewing your test approvals and your GPA spreadsheet, as Lori discussed with y'all, all the candidates who are on your GPA spreadsheet that's the list of candidates who were admitted this year. So we should also see test approval with an admission date of this academic year for all those folks. So if you want to review your test approval or review your GPA spreadsheet, you want to compare those two lists. So we really highly recommend that you verify before submitting your GPA spreadsheet to compare your GPA spreadsheet to your maintained test list to make sure that everybody on your GPA spreadsheet is in test approval, everybody in test approval for this year is on your GPA spreadsheet. So that's one of the ways that prior to, we haven't talked about the big cutoff date, but the cutoff date is September 15th. So prior to that, you need to do that verification. Also, even if a candidate withdraws over the course of a year, and this is important to note, if they're admitted in October and they withdraw in March, you will have entered their test approval, and then you will have updated it in order to remove it, according to your policies. So in those types of specialized cases where someone has been both admitted and removed within the year, they will be on your GPA spreadsheet, but they will have been removed from test approval.
Yeah, they'll still show up on your maintained test list as removed. So we can still see them once you remove their test approval. But they are considered admitted if you admitted them formally, even if they left. They are admitted and are reported as such in all areas of admitted.
Very nice. So one piece of good news. We had a question here. As far as comparing your test approval to your GPA spreadsheet, you're comparing your test approval at the candidate level, not at the test level. So you'd be looking at all the candidates that are listed on your test approval. Even if there's multiple tests, you just need to look at the number of individual distinct candidates in your test approval and compare that to the number of distinct candidates on your GPA spreadsheet. One more thing to let you all know, this is a new functionality in ECOS that is targeted to be released August 16th. And this will allow you to update and remove existing test approvals using an upload. So using the process that we just looked at, you can now switch a whole bunch of people from being eligible to being approved for one attempt, or from being approved for one attempt or eligible to being removed. In order to update a record, it must match the existing record exactly. So same admission date, same route, same test, same everything. The only thing that's different is a new value for the approval. So again, this is not yet live. The target is for this to be live August 16th. to provide almost a full month of folks to take advantage of this new feature prior to the September 15th deadline for getting all of your data finalized. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the finisher records list. So, and this is both your other enrolled list and your finisher list. And we're going to try, I've got a little video of this too. The reason why the videos is because with the putting social security numbers and masking and all that sort of stuff, it's a little bit easier for us to just have that already pre-recorded. So let's take a look at this one. So looking at the finisher records list. Yeah. So all candidates, including your newly admitted candidates, need to be on the finisher records list. Those folks need to have a status of either other enrolled or finisher. Now, people talk about the other enrolled list or the finisher lists. Those are just subsets of this overall finisher records list. You can get people on this list either individually or part of a bulk upload. And to do that, you're going to need their TEA ID, their name, their cert license ID that they're pursuing, their route, finisher status, which is other enrolled or finisher. So in order to get there, under the ASEP menu, we'll look at the one at a time entry here. I selected student search and I'm putting their TEA ID in. Now this brings up their record. This is student name. And this allows me to add one finisher record at a time. And you can see I've got a drop down here. And so I can add, for this person, I can add 17 setting core subjects EC6. And then I need to select the reporting year. And I need to select that this person, as of the end of the year, pardon me, is other enrolled. So important to note there. Hold on, let me get this. I'm just going to pause there for a second and say, this is the candidate's status as of the end of the reporting year. So this is a snapshot. If they finished this reporting year, if they finished in June, then we need to make sure that by September 15th, their status is finisher. If as of August 31st, because we use 9/1 to 8/31 for our reporting year, so as of August 31st, if they were still other enrolled, they hadn't finished the program yet, they'll have a status of other enrolled here. If they have left the program over the course of the year, you'll need to remove them off this list.
So let me add also here that when you're putting in the test or subject area identifying, so right now it says core subjects EC6, this is the same area that you identified in test approval as the certificate they're seeking. So if you uploaded core subjects EC6 as their admitted area for test approval, that's what needs to be reflected in this area as well. It all should line up.
Thank you so much for that. So let's keep looking at what else we can do. So instead of one at a time, we can do these as we can upload finishers. So here, again, you'll make a CSV either in Microsoft Excel or another program like that, and you'll save that document as a CSV. Here's an example of the document that I have. It has the TEA ID, the student name, and the other necessary values that are on the page, the guidance page. Again, you'll see I don't have a header row here. So even if you make this and you have values as a reference, you need to delete that before you save this as a CSV. So you'll save it as a CSV, and once you've done that, you'll select that this is a finisher records list. You'll select the reporting year. You'll choose the file, select it, and upload it. And it might take a little bit. You'll then get confirmation that it was processed. And you can always click there to see a status report of it. So that's a quick little bit about how to put people onto your finisher records list. So a little bit about reviewing. So all candidates on your GPA spreadsheet will likely be on your finisher records list as other enrolled or finisher. So you'll want to check your finisher records list against the candidates on your GPA spreadsheet. And again, verify this before submitting your GPA spreadsheet. We know, again, same thing that we looked at previously, if a candidate is admitted to a program, but in the reporting year, but leaves the program prior to August 31st of the reporting year. That should say 8/31/2019. I missed that on my updates of this slideshow from last year. I apologize for that. But if they leave before 8/31/2019, they'll be removed from your Finish Your Records list because they are no longer other enrolled and they did not finish. So those would be the exceptions of why somebody might be on your GPA spreadsheet, but not on your Finish Your Records list. Addressing a little bit of the questions that we see, that we're seeing here is that, as we mentioned, we are working to update the Finish Your Record, to allow you to update Finish Your Records in bulk. So again, starting targeted August 16th for this new functionality in the system, you'll be able to update, that is switch people from being other enrolled to being finishers, or to remove people, switch them from being other enrolled to being removed if they drop, or to add additional certification codes if that's necessary. Say they were Math 712, but now they also picked up Science 712. You'll be able to do that as part of a bulk upload. So previously you had to do this one at a time. Starting, the target is 9/16 or 8/16 for us to have this new functionality in ECOS. You'll be able to do a bunch of these at a time. You'll use the same format as an approach as the bulk upload. The records will need to match the TEA ID, the name, and the route, but there'll be a new value for other enroll for their status. So what we're going to recommend here, you can download your other enrolled list. You can change the values for the statuses, and then for the candidates that you changed, you can make that file and then re-upload it, and it'll overwrite it. So that is new functionality that is coming and coming soon, hopefully within 10 days. I wanted to pause a second to address a few of the questions that we're seeing, just some ones that we know kind of right off the bat. So I got a question here about candidates who are admitted as PACT. What do I do for test approval since they've already passed the PACT exam? Now I'm going to say something. I'm going to look at the folks who are smarter than me in the room to make sure I'm saying this right. So if you admit them and they've passed PACT, you still need to put them on test approval, and you can put them on test approval with as eligible for the PPR and for the content area if you wish. But the PPR will be enough if they do that, won't it?
Well, we like for you to upload them as eligible for the actual content. Even if they've passed the test, the system won't block you from doing that. We like for you to do that because it provides us information about what the candidate's seeking.
That is true.
And when we're looking at your data, we can cross-check that with your Finish Your Records list, and we can make sure everything's lining up and everything seems to be accurate. So really, I know it seems strange to upload a content test as eligible when they've already passed that test, but really the system isn't going to care. So you can go ahead and do that, and that's not a problem.
Great, and we're getting some additional commentary that helps with Title II, I think. Some additional clarification on here. Yes, so the goal for the release on August 16th does allow you to update rather than all at once instead of one at a time. So that is something that you can do. Another question about, let me just see if we have anything else. Yes, we can email you a PDF of the PowerPoint used today if you registered for the webinar. We talked about the GPA candidates. Do you want to talk at all about CTE candidates? We might wrap back around and address that one. All right, let's keep boogieing along. Can delete it because it was in the same reporting year and not. So we've got a question here about can you delete a candidate that was admitted in the same reporting year? If that candidate has dropped from your program, you can go ahead and remove from test approval and remove from the other enrolled list.
Because we can still see them when you've removed them from your end. If there is ever a need for us to see that, we can see it behind the scenes from our side. So we would like for you to keep your records current. So if someone dropped in October, we would like for you to remove them in October. It helps if that person goes on to another program. It helps us to, when we're providing guidance and assistance to candidates. So we prefer that you do that in a real time. But yes, go ahead and remove them. If they leave, remove them.
All right. And a few questions coming up about exception letters, and we will have a little bit additional on exception letters as we go along. So we're going to talk a little bit about the annual performance report now. That's me. This has changed a bunch, and it's changed a bunch in that we have removed this as removed most of the reporting responsibility related to this. So, what is the annual performance report? It's a complete list in ECOS of all your candidates who were applied, admitted, retained, and completed the program, and it's broken out by gender and ethnicity. So new this year, this has been brought up to us a number of times about how, given test approval, we already know how many candidates have been admitted, and given the other enrolled list, we know how many candidates were retained, and given the finisher list, we already know how many candidates completed the program. And so we were able to write additional programming this year to populate the admitted, retained, and completed columns on the annual performance review. So that allows us to you don't have to report that number anymore. So that's good news. If you've done this in prior years, you might remember the APR screen, and there was a lot of clicking and reselecting of the year. Every time you wanted to enter a new number, you had to reselect the year. You don't have to report through that screen anymore. We've taken that requirement away from y'all. We've removed that. All that's left is that there's no place for us to get the number of candidates who applied to your program. And statute says that we're supposed to report that. So we still do need to collect the number of candidates who applied to your program. And how we're going to do that this year is via a very simple and straightforward spreadsheet. So you will need to go ahead and grab, again, I'm on the program provider web page here, and under Texas Educators, under the program provider resources page, there's a spreadsheet for download that says 2018-19 APR applied spreadsheet. So you're going to download that, and this is what you'll get. There's 2 tabs on it. And the cells that you need to fill out are the yellow highlighted cells. So you'll put the, your CDN, your EPP name, your name and your email address. And then on the second tab, you'll put the number of candidates who applied for your program, the all number, and then disaggregated male and female, and then disaggregated African American, Hispanic, white, and then folks who don't fit into those 3 categories. There was a quick question here about what about folks who don't identify their ethnicity or their gender when they start up an educator account. So individual educators who do that. So they will not show up as counted in your female or male account if they did not put their gender. They will not show up on your in any of the race ethnicities category if they did not put their race ethnicity, but they will show up on the all number. To the extent that we have folks who don't report those values into ECOS, it's pretty rare, but it does happen. So in some cases, the male plus the female won't equal all. Now, before they get their standard cert, they do have to fill out all those fields. And so over time, those fields, those counts get closer to being accurate. I'm going to say, Lori, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, to build on what Mark just said, eventually they're going to have to populate all of their information in their educator account in order to move forward in their certification process. So it would be helpful for you to encourage the folks that you admit and just encourage them and say, look, you're going to have to fill this out or you're not going to be able to move forward in certification, and maybe that will encourage them to get that done sooner rather than later. The other thing that I would add here, be mindful that your applied number should not be less than your admitted number. You can't admit more people than actually applied to your program. So you're not populating these numbers yourself. So be mindful when you're reporting these of the relationship between the applied and admitted numbers.
Thank you, Lori. Hi, this is Betty Flores. I'm going to go over the observations section of this webinar with you guys. So we're going to go over observations. What are observations? All programs must report your clinical, intern, probationary, teacher observations with a field supervisor for each observation. The fields that are required to enter into the system are field supervisor TEA ID number, field supervisor name, comment, observation date, observation duration, assignment begin date, assignment end date, and assignment type. You must be putting in your observations as they occur throughout the year. New for 2018-19, down here at the bottom. Currently, we only input observations for all classes of educators. And we are encouraging you that there are some forthcoming changes to 19 TAC 229.3 F1, which requires programs to report observations for non-teacher candidates completing practicums. We recommend that programs begin to report these observations now, this year. Please use the CLIN 141 for these candidates.
Betty, I'd just like to chime in there.
Sure.
Is that so for ASEP and accountability, again, we're looking at the teacher observations, and that'll continue, but with updates to that figure, it's asking programs to put in the observations for your principals, for your counselors. Those are observations that are required to occur. So those are required observations. Previously, programs hadn't been required to put those into ECOS. Now, starting for whenever this rule gets approved all the way through SPEC, they will be required to put those observations into ECOS. So that's what's going on here.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, so let's move on to some helpful tips for your observations. Programs should review each candidate's status to ensure that the candidate has been identified as other enrolled or finisher before proceeding with entering your observations. And we went over that on how to do that. Observations can be added for the unlocked year only. Even if a candidate has an assignment that overlaps 2 reporting years, the observations must be reported in the reporting year in which they occur. Field supervisors need to be put into ECOS prior to being listed as a field supervisor of record. You can bulk upload your field supervisor list. If the field supervisor TEID number is not in the system as a field supervisor, the observation data will not be accepted. And again, for additional guidance about candidate observations, please refer to 19 TAC 228.35, and we have that on our webpage link. So I'm going to go over the screens that you'll be using to add an individual observation. In the ASEP menu, you will select observations. You'll enter your candidate's TEID number and click add record. You'll then begin filling in the information, beginning with your supervisor TEID number, which should already be in the system. That'll populate automatically the field supervisor first and last name. You'll move down to your comment section, add your comment, enter your observation date. I believe that brings up a nice little calendar for you to choose from. You'll enter your observation. That's a drop down as well. The duration in minutes and hours. And you'll enter your begin date and an end date. And then you'll go to your choosing your valid assignment type, and the list is included on the screen. We've kind of broken out the observation assignment types for you, and we've included that in this handout. let me go over quickly of what is needed for your bulk upload. So you'll need your supervisor last name, your first supervisor first name, your beginning date of assignment, should not be a future date, and your candidate's TEID numbers should be existing TEID number, candidate's last name, candidate's first name, the observation date, again, that should be unlocked year, should be on or after the beginning date of assignment, and should not be a date in the future. Your observation duration, your supervisor comments, your supervisor TEID number, your assignment type, and your end date of assignment. And we provided a sample file.
And I just wanted to chime in real quick, and I'm sure we'll probably say it, but the comments that you put in here cannot have punctuation in them.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
That'll throw off your upload.
Yeah.
It'll kick it out. Okay, so we're gonna add using the bulk upload. So let's see here. In your ASEP menu, you're gonna click Upload Observations. You're gonna select your observation log from the Upload File Type drop-down menu. You're gonna use the Choose File button to browse to and select your CSV file that you saved. And you're gonna click Upload. And as we've been saying with all these uploads, do not include your header. So you're gonna check your upload, which is something you can do. So you'll click on the upload status and click the upload in the upload type column and look for errors. Review the observation logs for a sample of candidates to ensure the upload was complete and accurate. So let's review the observations. All teacher observations, including observations for candidates on extended probationary certificates, must be reported in ECOS. All observations conducted in 2018-19 must be entered into ECOS in 2018-19. Internship observations must occur between the effective date and the expiration date of the certificate associated with the internship.
And I would just reiterate, if the observation occurred during 2018-19, so if the date of the observation was between 9/1/2018 and 8/31/2019, it must go into ECOS this year. We've had a number that we really encourage folks. We discussed this last year, discussing it again this year. It's got to get reported in the reporting year in which it occurs. Super fun and exciting stuff.
Thank you, Mark. Now we're going to go over the exception forms. So these are the new forms that we've created to report your exceptions. So what are they? TEA has created some standardized exception forms for requests from EPPs. These will replace the old process for requesting exceptions for test approval and observations. Only these forms will be acceptable for exception requests. New forms also allow EPPs to submit exception requests for survey rosters. And we've provided the program provider webpage here, and you can see that we've highlighted where the exception forms exist on our forms and documents section of our webpage. Now we're going to go over exception forms example and how to fill it out. So you must follow the instructions to fill out the form. You must submit it securely. Please note that requested exceptions are not automatically granted. And the due dates. So the survey requests for exceptions are due August 16th this year. All other requests for exceptions are due on or before September 15th.
And I would just chime in a little bit about that. If you, about a month ago, maybe like 3 weeks ago, we sent out the teacher survey and principal survey rosters along with these exception forms. And we got, feedback from our data working group about trying to turn those exception forms around in a month, which is where we got the deadline that we've got. If you have not received any communication and no one at your EPP has received no communication about your survey rosters and you're worried about that, I encourage you, reach out to, we've got our emails here at the end. Go ahead, reach out to us, say, we didn't get a roster, what's going on? We double checked, we sent those things out. But if you didn't get those, I'm just trying to be cognizant of there's just 10 days left on our due date on that. Please feel free to follow up if you've got questions about those survey rosters.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, moving forward, I'm going to hand it over to Lori, who's going to go over the ASEP timeline.
I think I'm going to do it.
Oh,
actually.
sorry, Mark will.
I believe I'll let Mark do that one.
Oh, man. All right. All right. We can actually do a few questions before we go in. Can we enter C file for all observations, or do we need to have a comment? You can put C file for all your observations if you'd like. That column can't be empty, so you do need something there. But frequently we see EPPs use, kind of just something standard there, directing them back to their own files. That's a thing that's in the system that requires that. Should all anything about observations? I'm assuming that the question about does it include entering observations for school counselor only candidates is about entering it in this year. Answer is yes. Enter it in this year. And exception for, okay, we'll follow up on that one. So let's take a look at our, and there's a question here about the ethnicity. What ethnicity do we use for the APR? If the ethnicity that we collected is different, or that my EPP collected is different than the ethnicity that maybe they have in ECOS. Put the value that they have given you. Again, you're only able to, you're supplying the applied numbers. So that's the information that you have. Wanted to look a little bit at our ASEP timeline and additional supports. So here's where we're at. So right now, EPPs are reporting data. Again, we've got a September 15th deadline. That's in rule, so we don't get to play with that too much. Rule says that it goes by September 15th for these data submissions. The ASEP webinar, it's happening right now. The 2018-19 reporting year in ECOS closes September 15th, end of the day on September 15th. At that time, we start our review of your data. Our target is to have, so we look at all of these different data sources and we flag anything that doesn't work. And then we let you know if there's any issues that came up when we were reviewing data. We then return any issues that we found. Our target is to return that by October 4th. You then, which is a Friday. EPPs then review the TEA review information and identify any necessary corrections that you need to make. This might be necessary corrections to your GPA spreadsheet. Pardon me, this might be necessary corrections that need to go into ECOS. And if they are necessary corrections that need to go into ECOS, we reopen the reporting year for 1 week in October for any additional corrections that need to happen. That one last observation that you didn't get put into the system, or the person who you still have on as other enrolled who actually left the program and you need to remove. We pop it back open and then that's it. The reporting year is closed, it's final. We lock it down so that we can do all the necessary calculations moving forward. A little bit about submitting documents because this has been updated this year. I'll let Lori talk you through this.
All right, I am most happy to talk about this because if any of you have used this share file process to submit documents, secure documents to TEA, you will know how great this is. This is replacing Excelion, and this is really very user-friendly. So what will happen is we will send you a link. So where it says submit your GPA spreadsheet using this link, we will send you this link. You will click on it, and you will upload all of your secure documents directly into a file here at TEA. So it's really, really a nice user-friendly link. So when you're submitting your data to TEA, please make sure that anything you submit that's secure is submitted through this share file process. So anything with candidate identifiers, TEA ID numbers, candidate names.
Social security. No, don't send us
No,
social
no, no,
security
no.
numbers.
There's no reason to send anything with a social security number on it. Do not send those to us. TEA ID numbers are what we need. So anything like that we consider secure. You'll want to submit that through the secure file. The exception letters, the exception forms rather, you're going to submit those securely as well. You can use the Ed Standards mailbox for any non-secure things like email notifications that you want to send us with additional information, but no candidate identifiers should go in those emails. You're going to, sorry, what? Oh.
The file
Oh,
name.
yeah. So there is I'm sorry, they were whispering in my ear behind me.
I blame Mark.
So there in the GPA Spreadsheet Data Dictionary, there is a file name convention for you to use as you're naming your files to submit to us. Please take a look at those. They're going to be the same as what you used last year, but if you're new to this, you're not going to know what that is. So go ahead and check that out and use that naming convention. It helps us when we're processing the incoming files. You're going to submit your affidavit verifying your data on or before October 18th, 2019, and you can actually email that to the edstandards@tea.texas.gov mailbox. Please do not email those directly to your program specialist because they will get lost in our email boxes. And the Ed Standards email box is nice because it doesn't delete routinely like our regular mailboxes do. So please send those affidavits to Ed Standards. They don't need to be sent securely because they wouldn't have any candidate identifiers in them. You're going to use the new form that we've provided for you, again, on the Program Provider Resources page under the Documents list. And you're going to use the file name format that we're asking you to use. So again, we've provided the share files link in 2 different places for you here. Mark, you have something?
One last thing on that affidavit. I know that it can be tempting. You get all your data done by September 3rd, and you send it all in, and you're done, and you send us your affidavit. You're going to want to hold off on sending your affidavit until after TEA conducts that initial review. And the reason why is because if you send the affidavit and then we find, there's one candidate who's missing off the GPA spreadsheet, you're just going to have to resubmit a new affidavit. And so hold off until after that review is done. If we send you a review, we say, everything looks good on our end, y'all, then send us the affidavit, we're all good to go. If we conduct that review and say, hey, it looks like this person didn't make it onto the test approval list, and then you make that correction, you make that correction, and then you can send us the affidavit, and then we're good to go. So I know it can be, I know that I like to finish and do the absolute last step and then be able to walk away from it. I would just hold off on sending that affidavit until we conduct that review cycle.
Okay, thank you. And also I want to reiterate, there is a new affidavit form. We do want you to use the new one. So if you've saved one from last year, don't use that one. Use the new one that's posted on the program provider page. And this webinar has links. So you should be able to click on the form link and that should take you right to it. So when you're submitting share files to us, the secure files, sometimes when you in the past have sent those, you've had verbiage that you need to include in your email to explain something or information you want us to see. Unfortunately, when you submit through the share file process, there isn't really any place readily available for you to record email blurbs that you want to send us. So if you want to send us any explanatory information attached to or with your secure documents, We recommend that you save those on maybe a Word document or some sort of a text file, and then upload those as a document with your share file, other share file documents. So all this to say that ShareFile is new. And so, we are going to have a few changes, but what I want to do is go over a few things that I've discovered with ShareFile that will make your life easier as you submit these. So first off, when you click on this link, you're going to be asked to populate some information about yourself so that we know who the files are from. So you're going to be asked to populate your first and last name, your email address, and your organization. So there's an option on there that you can select that says Remember Me. If you select that, that will be helpful because any subsequent submissions you want to send, you don't have to repopulate that form every time. It will populate for you. So that's a helpful hint. I mentioned about the comments. There's really no place to put comments. So you can upload those, for example, as a Word document with your upload, and that will be totally acceptable. We'll read everything you send, as we always do. You can also alternatively mail any comments to Ed Standards, as long as it doesn't have any secure candidate information tied to it. When you're submitting share files, multiple files may be submitted in one submission. And it's kind of neat because you have two different options for attaching the files. You can either click and drag the files onto the form, or you can use the usual browsing method where you can click on a link and it'll let you browse through your computer and pick your files up and then upload them as is customary. When you submit the files, the sender should receive a confirmation email to the email address that was on the very first area that you populated, identifying who you were. That sender will receive a confirmation email that identifies that each file uploaded. The confirmation email, interestingly enough, will come from the sender. So that's kind of a strange thing, but you'll see something with your name on it in your email. And in another interesting twist, it might even end up in the sender's junk file. So anyway, but if you're looking for that confirmation, then it will be there. This document upload link will become inactive after ASEP reporting is complete. So that link we've provided for you is a temporary link. It should only be used for uploading ASEP documents because it dumps your documents directly into an ASEP dedicated file. So you should not use this link to submit any other secure files to TEA for any purpose that's not related to ASEP reporting for 2018-2019. Okay, so it's a temporary link. It goes away after ASEP closes, beginning of November, and you should not use it for any other purpose. If you have to submit any other secure documents to TEA, for example, if you're going through a 5-year review this year, or if you have other secure documents, I had a program send me some the other day. They just called me and said, hey, can you send me a link so I can upload some documents for you? That's totally fine. Let us know and we'll help you get those other documents submitted to us, not using the ASEP link. All right.
All right. So just in the last little bit that we have here, wanted to point you all towards additional resources. Again, there's a screenshot of the program provider resources. That's how you get to there from the main TEA page. There's contact info for your program specialist, for Betty, for myself, for Dr. Tam Jones. Throughout the ASEP reporting process, or the closeout of the year, we keep a close eye on this. And we would ask you to also keep an eye on materials that are coming your way. We do aim to provide additional resources for y'all. So keep an eye on your inboxes if you get things coming your way around. Maybe you'll get, we're looking at providing additional data sets to provide you information as you're closing out your reports. I would encourage you, just remember the end of the reporting year isn't until August 31st. So you do need to capture everything that happens through August 31st onto particularly your finisher records list. Need to make sure that you capture that on there. And anything else that happens through the end of August 31st, including observations. I'm going to say that one too. So just make sure that all those things make it in. And I'll add one more thing before Lori chimes in, which is we encourage you to, if you've got questions, we'll shoot to answer them. And we will be gathering up our questions and posting answers along with this recorded webinar.
One thing I wanted to mention about the reporting year, kind of to build on what Mark just said, we often get the question, if I admit somebody on August 30th, do they go on the 2018-19 reporting year, or do they go on the 19-20? Well, their formal admission date determines the year in which they're reported as admitted. So August 30th is still in the 18-19 reporting year, so it will go on that GPA spreadsheet. Even though the person really isn't going to start their preparation and training until the 19-20 year, they were admitted before the end of the 18-19 reporting year, so they go on the 18-19 GPA spreadsheet.
That's great. We'd like to thank everybody, all 130, now down to 127 attendees who came to this webinar. I know they left in the final minute, man. We look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank y'all so much. And one last thing, just a reflection. I know that we're setting up, a lot of our goals this year have been to create formalization and straightforward processes where before there was sort of like a lot of ping-pongy random stuff. So to the extent that you see, oh, that's a new form, the reason why is if we set up one new form, that keeps us from having 132 different forms. And it kind of gets everybody on the same page, and it simplifies these processes both for y'all and for us. So we recognize that there's some new stuff this year. Our goal is to streamline and simplify, and that's where we've been going. Thanks everybody so much for your time today. And we hope you have a really great rest of your week.
Yep. Thank you for coming. This is Lori. Call us if you have questions.
Bye.